Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Sharyn Clarkson. I'm from the Department of Finance and Assistant Secretary for the branch that runs GovCMS. So I'm going to run for a little bit today, just telling you about, for those of you who don't know, what GovCMS is all about, what we're trying to achieve, how we've done so far, what it means for the Drupal community and the open source community, what it means for SMEs, and then I'm going to be going on and talking about our next steps. So we've got a plan for the next 6 months of new work that we're progressing, and we've also got quite an important announcement today as well about something quite fundamental and a bit of a landmark thing that we're announcing this afternoon. So what is GovCMS? Well, you can read the slides up there. It is built by government and it's for all tiers, so federal, state and local. But most of all, I think probably a lot of people assume that because we're from the Department of Finance, our key aim for GovCMS was all about making savings and reducing cost. Well, it was, but we had several reasons for starting this. Our role in our team is we have relationships with a lot of digital teams across government, and one of the things we noticed was how fragmented we are, how difficult it is to work together, how hard it is to do the right thing for our users because of the bureaucratic barriers in our way, and how hard it is to really deliver a great experience for Australians with federation and states, and how hard it is to work through COAG. And one thing we do know is that people can make a huge difference, and if people have relationships, they can do things to solve problems in a way that structures and processes can't always do. So that was our major driving force with GovCMS, was to build a digital community and bring people together, and we'd use the platform to do that. Now, it's true we chose a platform that we knew there was a need for, and we know that there was over 360 different CMSs and versions in use just in Canberra alone, so we know that that can't be very cost effective. And some of the things, the benefits we get about coming in around a single platform is we all start to share, say, Drupal skills, and we get more mobility within government for public servants, able to move around. Our skills are more transferable. And obviously there's a lot of benefits that accrue to the Drupal community outside of government as well. So I think at its heart, the whole point of this was to tear down the walls in government and bring people together. And I think we've started to make a good inroad on that. So it's not just host. Obviously we have the SaaS service, which most of you heard about early on when we first launched GovCMS. And that was around the SaaS platform based on Acquia Site Factory. From there we moved on to open up the PaaS platform, which gives agencies a lot more freedom, but obviously you have to take more responsibility, have to have WebOps capability and such like. That's now fully open and available, and that's platform as a service. So it's not just hosting, it's a complete ecosystem, and it's also designed to take the pain out of compliance with Australian government standards. For those of us who work in government, there's a lot of rules that we've got to address, right through from WCAG compliance to security accreditation. So we've taken a lot of the pain out of that. And obviously we wanted to make sure that we provided enterprise-level defence against DDoS and other kinds of attacks. So we've got very robust security accreditation, full-time security personnel on GovCMS, and also through Akamai we have edge protection and CDN and DDoS. So we're almost 1 year old, and you can see there we've got a few websites up. Now that exceeds, before we started this we had to do a business case, and we asked Deloitte to come and help us to get the cost-benefit analysis done, and also we wanted their opinion on what could we reasonably expect to take up in our first year, our second year and our third year, because we had to prove the case to be able to proceed. Today I'm going to tell you that we have smashed the projected take-up rate for GovCMS. We've smashed the conservative estimate for year one, the intermediate and the ambitious target for year one. In fact, we have already smashed our projected 3-year rate for the conservative estimate. So that's far better than we ever expected. We know that people don't see GovCMS and suddenly run out and buy it. There are logical times to change your content management system or to change, from what you're doing now to something different. And those things have life cycles, and the life cycle for a CMS is 3 to 5 years. Other things that may trigger someone to come to GovCMS is doing a major consolidation. And in fact, we've seen a lot of that on GovCMS. More and more agencies have been taking, say, 7 or 9 sites, and some that we've spoken to have up to 90 sites, and they're really wanting to reduce down to 1 or maybe 2 sites. So that's been a key theme we've seen in the last year. OSB's, our little group in finance, has also been doing some small site builds for really tiny agencies that don't have very, very big budgets. And interestingly enough, one of the things I will reflect on after year 1 and after what Tom Burton has said about customisation, you can create, we've created white sites for GovCMS that allow you to stand up a site at no cost at all. No design costs, no customisation. Only one agency took that up. So there still is in government a desire for everyone to customise everything and to have their own design, and we've got to recognise that that comes at a cost. So while the white sites are there, they haven't been very popular, and almost everybody that's come on GovCMS has done a new design for their own website. So who created it? Well, our little team is unusual in finance. We're the only team that's sort of fully digital. We live in a pretty scungy converted garage out in Fishwick. So we haven't got shiny toys. We have got very good developer laptops, but almost all the rest of our equipment is pretty eyebrow raising. But what we are is full stack agile. So everything we do is agile, and if we're not doing builds and dev, then we're using Kanban for our business as usual. So we're quite different for a government team. We're also managed, by going agile a few years ago, we managed to get 600% increase in productivity, and what that did was free us up to be doing more innovation. So we have a quarter of the branch at any one time that's involved in innovation, and we've got ideas up the wazoo. We've got ideas that will last us for years of things we want to do that will completely change the landscape of government and digital. Don't get me started on that. So what's been really great is that increasing our productivity for Agiles freed us up to do all sorts of amazing things, and GovCMS was the first thing that we did. So I just want to prove that we were in the same situation as a lot of other government web teams. We had products that were out of date. We were constantly in a cycle of trying to, bring 1 or 2 of our 7 or 8 products up to date each year. We didn't have enough budget. We had a recruitment freeze. We lost 14 people we couldn't replace. We were in the same position that a lot of ICT teams are in government, and we turned that around just by completely changing the way we worked. Finding the savings, reinvesting it and doing new things. So anybody who wants to find out more about how we did that, sometimes I go and I talk about that journey occasionally at conferences. But I'm always willing to have people come round out to our little garage in Fishwick, and in fact many agencies do, and they come round to participate in Agile and just get a feel for it. So when you're thinking about doing something like a platform, you have to think about all sorts of things. We have to think about, the open source community and what we do and how it impacts on them. We have to think about, the developer community around something. We have to think about enterprise hosting and security. And we have to think about the small business sector. That's after we've thought about what are the user needs of the digital teams across government who have to produce digital content and services for their agencies. I spent about 2 years before we even embarked on this, talking and listening a lot to people across in the digital space, right across government, understanding what they needed. So it probably wasn't formal user research work, but I'm an anthropologist by trade, and of course, in New Zealand, we've been doing user-centred design for Nathan Wall, you're right there. when did we start? 2003. So we kind of do it in the way that it's how we do everything. So, yeah, I'm glad to see it's taking off in Canberra too now. So I had a really good idea of what would work. I talked to a lot of SMEs. I'm still talking to a lot of small businesses. We're still trying to get it right. It's our first year. It was an MVP, and we're still trying to, constantly refine things. One of the things people need to understand is that when government adopts something, it makes it mainstream. So the fact is that government's chosen an open source product to power its content management platform. The impact of that is profound, and it will trickle down around to lots of other things. What it says when a government does that, like a revenue agency, a social security agency, or a whole of government system adopts something, is it says this thing is mature. It says this thing is enterprise. It says this thing is robust. So that's what it says to the market. So there's a value of government adoption that, there's no mystery as to why the really big top 10 ICT companies in the world, the proprietary companies, invest so much money in government. It's because government adoption defers maturity and a sort of cachet that you can't buy in marketing. So of course there's impacts to that, and some of the impacts will be on the Drupal community, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. So some of the things it means for the community is that your skills will be in greater demand, probably your hourly rate will go up, I'll have to pay more. But you have to learn what matters to enterprise clients, and that's quite different to what matters to a 10-person startup or a 20-person non-profit. The needs and the pressures are quite different. And I know it's a bit of a learning curve for some people when they first come into government and work on some of the really, really big sites. One of the things about government is it does things at a scale that most private sector people will never encounter, unless they're in something, working in something like an IBM or Olympic Games and things like that. What we have in government digital teams is an ability to produce things at massive scale, and having to have them stable and reliable. We have good skills that are really, really valuable, and for the Drupal community who haven't had opportunities to work in that space, you will learn things from your government colleagues just as much as they will learn things from you. Certification, always a nasty word in the open source community, I find, but government does tend to want to know that you have, if you're a developer, that you have reached a certain level of competence, and that's all they really want to know. If I hire people to come into my team, if I hire people to take on this piece of work for me, how do I know that they are at a reasonable level of competence? So that will be the trade-off. I know some people in the open source community think, I've been doing Drupal for 8 years, what do I need a bit of paper for? That's all it is. So, and it's just one of the trade-offs in the fact that you'll have a lot more work, because not only will government be looking for Drupal skills now, but so will big business. So SMEs are a critical part of this. We've had a real mix of people in the year of all the 51 sites that have come on. Some of the bigger teams have all built their own sites, like ATO. They built their own annual report site. DHS have built their own site. Finance obviously builds its own sites. Other people have got partners through Acquia, and they've done builds, using that pathway. Some people have gone to market and got their preferred person that they've been working with for years. There's lots of different ways you can come on GovCMS. You don't need to spend a lot of money, especially if you take a white site. The Department of Finance has a strong relationship with Acquia. We needed a big robust heffalump in the middle that would produce those repeatable components over and over again at a good cost and at very high reliability, and we needed their expertise around Drupal and the quality. And I must say, one of the things that we've experienced with Acquia is the quality of the technical architects and the tabs and that. It's really quite outstanding. And many of our customers, our government agencies, have repeated the same thing to us as well. So we do appreciate that. At the same time, it's really important to us in finance that we build a SME market around this. And this is one of the reasons why Acquia gets partners, is because we said to them, you can't have all this, you can have this bit, and the rest of it, this is all for the small business community around Australia and the regions and all the states. That's very important to us. So if you've got an SME and you've got a customer interested in coming on to GovCMS, you can talk to finance directly, and we will even come and meet with your customer and take your customer through all the ins and outs of GovCMS, and you are able to invite us to that meeting. If we can't be there physically, we can join by phone. So what next? We have a few things we've been working on. So one of the things that we completed just before Christmas, in fact days before Christmas, was finished all the security work around theming. So one of the problems that we had with the SaaS offering was that we couldn't open up the theming console until we had done the security work. That's now complete, and we've actually implemented two-factor authentication as well. And it'll be available to agencies on SaaS who do want greater control over the design of their website, so people who want to constantly iterate design. For those of you who don't want that, who just want to be able to update content in their site, then you don't have to worry about it. GovCMS Express is what we're working on at the moment. We're working towards a fully digital end-to-end sign-up process so that you can actually go on the website, put in a few details and actually spin up your dev site immediately. That's the goal. At the moment, there'll be some pixies in the back end doing some semi-automated things, but you won't be able to see that. That's because we're going MVP and we're doing it really at low cost, and we want to see how it works. We've done user research, we've done our designs. We're kind of moving into alpha phase now. It shouldn't be too long, a couple of months. Gavin, what do you reckon? A couple of months? Yeah. So the first iteration will be a lot of pixies behind the scenes, but it'd be simple to go and stand up a site, but only if you're not a non-corporate Commonwealth website, because if you are a non-corporate Commonwealth website, you shouldn't be building new websites without the DTO's permission. But of course, we provide websites to right across the country, to every state and territory and local government. And actually, we've got more and more state government sites coming on board, which is great. We've got some building at the moment. Higher accreditation. So our goal is to move to a DLM certification. At the moment, we are having to turn some sites away that have a DLM marker. And so obviously we want to move forward. For people who are interested, I am interested in how much interest there is in us spinning up intranet service as well. We actually do have a protected environment for our partner SliceTech, and it's fully accredited. It wouldn't be that hard for us to do that, but we don't know yet what the need is for that. But common sense says that if you're now on GovCMS for your external site, you probably want to consolidate and have your intranet on similar technology. And you would have heard this when I was at DTO, and Pia and I were scheming away. So this work's continued to progress, and Dave Peterson, yes. So today we're going to be announcing that we are delivering omnichannel and governors and API for content through GovCMS. That's pretty big, folks. That's like really pushing the edge. And even Acquia and myself don't know how government might use this. We've got some ideas on what they might do, but we don't truly understand the total potential yet. But I think it's quite significant. My colleague Pia War, who's recently moved to Prime Minister and Cabinet, she's continuing to do government as API as well, and she's hopeful that government as an API for data will happen sometime pretty soon. They're actively working on that. So we've got content, we've got data, we still need somebody to stand up and do government as an API for services, and then I guess at some point bring it all together. But we have to start somewhere, and we can only start, and it's, we're doing that sort of iterative process. We're starting where we can start, where we have some influence. Some of the ways in which we think people might use government as an API. So obviously omni-channel. So I think we got some sessions. David, you got sessions at Drupalgov about Content Hub? No? Oh. So we've adopted Content Hub through Acquia. It basically has the ability API in, API out, and data normalisation in the centre. It has pretty powerful discovery as well. So this is very similar to the work that Pia and I were doing at DTO and hasn't been continued, but luckily Acquia's picked it up and continued to talk to us as well, which is really good. So I think the ways in which we might see government using it is omni-channel. So you can publish a piece of content and then you can deliver that piece of content to websites, shopfront TVs, your call centre knowledge base, and anything else, any other system in your internal agency that needs that piece of content. One piece of content, COPE principle, create once, publish everywhere. The difference between that and the old cut and paste method, the cut and paste method, you might have 2,000 people using that piece of content and they've cut and pasted at a point in time. And this is how, as government, we end up with incorrect information all over the place because people don't update it and we can't control it once somebody's copied it. This way you can have people pulling it through API, and if you edit a change, the minute you edit that change, virtually in real time, all the sites using that bit of content are also reflecting the new edits. So this is really powerful stuff for government to make sure customers get the right information at the right time, and it's always correct. The other way I can see it being used is user focus. The ability to basically hoover up content from all over government and present it in new ways. So you might present it as a new topic website, or maybe not a website, maybe it's an app, maybe something else. But to bring together experts and to be able to recompile content in new ways. It may have application for entry points, state entry points, sites like govcms.gov.au, the ability to have federated content all over the place and to be able to bring it together in a unified way. Migration. So if we can pull stuff in by API and normalise the data in the centre, we can then we can deliver that data to one or more GovCMS sites and enforce our content model for our site on it. So that's much, that's quite appealing for those of us who do a lot of migration. And syndication. So being able to publish content to other websites, to multiple websites, and do it simultaneously. I think the thing about unleashing government is once you can do this, and it is quite simple to do, allowing non-profit sector and private sector to take that content and recompile it and put it alongside other types of content that as government we can't do, and repackage it in creative ways. That's what unleashing government's all about. So one of the things we'd already identified, Pia and I had already identified before we went to DTO, was that when you have sites, and I'll give you an example, pregnancy. It's really, really important that government gets key messages to women when they're pregnant at key times for health reasons. But most women probably don't, when they find out they're pregnant, they don't go running to australia.gov.au or health.gov.au. No, they go to Essential Baby, or they go to baby.com and they get their due date calculator and they find out, that the fetus is now 4 millimetres long, and they get a weekly email telling them how things are changing. So trying to take government and deliver it to where people are on the internet rather than making them come to us all the time is a key concept of government as an API and unleashing content. So the fact is, if baby.com and Essential Baby can suck some of government content out and place it alongside the information that they're providing to pregnant women, we may be getting our messages, our key and critical messages out to pregnant women months and months before they would have engaged with government. This is why it's really critical that we think this way and think about new and different ways of doing things. So I think that will be one of the first jurisdictions in the world to do something quite like this. I'm really hoping that a few agencies will put their hand up. I've invested in a small package on the service, and I'm inviting agencies who would like to try out government as an API and this omni-channel stuff. We need some content, we need some ideas, and we'd like to try a few use cases and kind of document them. So, and it will be at no cost to agencies who want to join us for a bit of a trial and put it for its paces and write it up. So we'll be writing to all the existing GovCMS customers today to send them an invitation. That's all I've got to speak about today. Oh. But I'm welcome to any questions. Anybody like to ask me anything? Yeah.
What's the most popular site on GovCMS, or the most high-profile site on GovCMS?
The highest profile site would have been australia.gov.au in terms of page views and numbers, but of course we're going to be eclipsed this week or very shortly by humanservices.gov.au. You did go live? You crossed over? I wasn't quite sure. I didn't want to drop you in it in case you hadn't. That's fabulous. Okay, so one of the largest sites in government is now live on GovCMS. You heard it here, humanservices.gov.au, and that's a massive site and a lot of users. So, okay, it's great. Yep.
Just a quick question about some of the advice that's been coming out of the DTO recently in relation to the moratorium on new websites. I'm just wondering how that is going to affect the GovCMS business model and whether, I guess, you still open business in terms of just moving shops across and standing up new websites.
Yeah. Obviously, they're still finding their way. They've got a pretty big, and I know how enormous their piece of work is. It's not easy stuff. Yes, they have put a moratorium on new websites for the Commonwealth sector. That affects non-corporate Commonwealth websites. So it doesn't affect corporates like, CASA and, SBS and such like. Nathan, who else is it? It doesn't affect the state governments and local government, obviously. But everyone else, if you're in federal government and you're in a non-corporate old FMA agency, then you need to speak to DTO about any new websites. And I think really the trend is consolidation.
Can we just clarify new websites? I'm Glenn Marsden, I'm the GovCMS product owner. So a new website is a brand new site, one that doesn't previously exist.
Yeah.
And as far as the amount of government websites that are ready to come to GovCMS to migrate from whatever platform they are, we got more work than we can cope with for the next 100 years.
Yes. Yeah, you've got to remember there's at least about, where there's 1,600 sites in the entire Commonwealth, non-corporate and corporate, there's probably another 800 or 900 for each state and territory. I mean, I know not every territory's got that many, but there's also all the school sites, and there's thousands and thousands of school sites, and we have one state who does intend to bring all of their school sites, and there's more than 1,000 of those. So this is going to be a strong, robust platform no matter what, with good take-up. At the moment, we're talking to DTO about where they're going to put GovAU, and we hope that they'll come and be part of the community, but we're still talking to them about that. Yes?
You mentioned using GovCMS for intranet. For intranet, you mentioned using GovCMS. Did you recommend that, or you just inviting people to start doing it?
No, a few people have mentioned it to us that now that they're external sites on GovCMS, they want to use the same technology, the same content management system to deliver their intranet, because quite often the same team delivers both, especially the smaller the agency, the more likely that is. Now that's been problematic for some agencies because their ICT group doesn't support open source, or there's just not the capability, and they've asked us, can we host intranet? Well, yes, we can through our protected. We do have a protected environment, should people need that. But if we were going to, what we haven't done is done anything with the distribution. Because the intranet uses slightly different modules, one would think that you have slightly different needs. We haven't done any work pulling together a good intranet version of GovCMS. But so if there is interest out there, then you should let us know.
Can you speak to Drupal skills development within agencies who have started adopting GovCMS?
Yeah, I hope most of the agencies that have adopted have started attending training, and agencies in the room, have you all been going to training? We've been trying to make sure there's pretty regular opportunities in Canberra and Melbourne and Sydney, Brisbane, around the country. Because of course we've got teams using GovCMS now that are not just in Canberra, and they're right around the country. I believe, Gavin, did you want to add anything about training? So, no,
One more question.
okay, yep.
I'm just wondering, when I've looked at GovCMS previously, I guess because it was a software as a service, you were limiting the ability to add modules. Does the platform as a service allow you to add modules now?
Yeah, that's the key difference. So the SaaS model, you can add modules. I think you have to request. It takes around 3 weeks. You have to put the request openly on GitHub so everyone can see it. Generally, if it's sensible, it's going to be accepted. I think, Glenn, we had about 21, 22 requests for extra modules on SaaS, and they've all been implemented. Or is it more now?
Yeah, that's about right. Some will come in faster than others. Some things
Yeah.
are more useful to government, and some things maybe a little bit edge casing.
Yeah. On the PaaS platform, there's no restriction. You can add 1,000 modules if you want to your website. That's the point. But you do have to then manage your site, and you don't get so much of the savings that you get on SaaS. But it's for an agency and your needs to weigh that up. Yeah.
Sharyn, one last question.
Yeah, just wanted to find out what's been the reaction of the proprietary CMS vendors, and how have you dealt with it?
A lot of the people in the proprietary world in Canberra are actually my friends, so they pretend to slap me. Yeah, I don't think I'm too popular, but I think that it's giving them a bit of a push too, because now they're embracing cloud and open source and different ways of doing things a lot more than they were previously. So we're seeing quite some movement of the proprietary companies, sort of changing a little bit of their models. You know, when we do something in government, it is like the butterfly that flaps its wings. We do have an impact that can be good or bad, so we're quite careful what we do, and that's one of the reasons public servants are careful.
So of that, you mentioned I can't remember the number of different platforms, but 350 that's across use over government.
Yeah, we found over 360 when we were doing our research. We also found probably, was it about a quarter didn't have a content management system? They were doing Dreamweaver or Notepad or something obscure. We found lots of agencies had CMSs that were out of support, where the company no longer existed, and we've had a few emergency shifts to GovCMS in the last year for people whose companies no longer supporting their content management. We didn't have any standout content management systems that were kind of pack leaders, because they were just it was so spread that even the big ones like Front Page was this much, and then, you know, even IBM content management, it was this much on this version, this much on that version, and this much on that version. There just wasn't big clumps of one single CMS. It's extremely fragmented. How are we supposed to work together like that?